Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of Rotoballer, my co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network, and we're on to Phoenix. I don't think we have anything to talk about from Martinsville. We're fine.
Not really. Let's just move on to Phoenix.
We're going to talk about this championship finale. No, Ryan Blaney gets to victory lane, but not without, of course, some of the patented NASCAR drama that's been going on this entire year. Penalties issued
luckily
yesterday.
it didn't involve Blaney, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Blaney drove his ass off. I know you and I talked before the race, and you're like, his long run speed is incredible.
Ridiculous.
And holy shit. NASCAR or Goodyear, kudos to them. They brought a tire that it was an enjoyable Martinsville race. Like, there was actually fall off. There was actual passing when people wanted to pass. But like I said, did not lack in the drama category. Blaney's in. Reddick was already in. Logano was already in. The final spot came down to William Byron, Christopher Bell. Bell was in at the end of the race. NASCAR ruled that he safety violation, basically saying he did what Ross Chastain did a couple years ago, rode the wall to get to his position. So they put him at the end of the one lap down, which put William Byron in to the championship 4, being the 4th car. Now, Byron did not have a uneventful end of that race either, as Austin Dillon and Ross Chastain basically formed a blockade behind him and would not let anybody pass him, because if Byron was going to lose any more positions, Bell would have been in. NASCAR came down and decided, in addition to taking Bell out of the championship 4 and his penalty, they also penalized Austin Dillon's team, Ross Chastain's team, and Bubba Wallace's team, who Bubba Wallace, the last 3 laps, conveniently had an issue allowing Christopher Bell to pass him to get into the championship 4 at that time. NASCAR must have found out that car did not actually have an issue. Find all these teams, Austin Dillon, Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, find them all $100,000. Spotters are all suspended for the next race. Crew member or a team member is suspended for the next race. The big controversy, though, is, well, there's 2. Let's start with Bell. Did you see? Was that a safety violation? What should that have been called? I guess is my question.
There's 3 controversies, right? There's the blocking for Byron. There's the Bubba controversy, right? Because without the Bubba controversy, if him having a 4-second slower final lap or whatever, the Bell thing doesn't even matter, because Bubba was who he passed. And then there's the safety violation, which NASCAR, I should say not NASCAR, NBC showed Christopher Bell's in-car. Christopher Bell gets all the way out of the gas in the middle of the corner and just loses it. Obviously, he went into the corner really hard, but once he realized it wasn't going to stick, he got all the way out of the gas, completely dumped the throttle, hits the wall. What are you supposed to do from there? Just not go? Turn left away from the wall, I guess, but it doesn't matter. At that point, you're already in the wall. Like, I don't know what NASCAR wants him to do there. Do they want him to come back across the middle of the track when he's,
Right.
It makes no sense to me. What NASCAR wants there. I mean, Bell was all the way out of the throttle. He hits the wall. So do you want him to just stop going at that point? Is that what NASCAR wants? If you crash, you're no longer allowed to use the throttle? I don't know what NASCAR wants there.
To me, it was a perfect scenario of a perfect, not scapegoat, but a perfect excuse to call that. Because they then, they took 20 minutes after the race to make this call. But they then did not have to immediately say anything about the Chevys doing stuff. They didn't have to immediately say anything about Bubba. And they had that gray area in the rule book from the Chastain incident where they could say that and give that as the reason that Christopher Bell's not getting in and then penalize everybody else. I understand it from that point of view, but I think we all know if the other shenanigans, if the other shenanigans did not happen on that final lap, that wouldn't have been called. And that's the main issue I have there is it's so, man, I'm getting tired of hearing Elton Sawyer talk. I really am. And I don't know if, like, I think it honestly kind of tarnishes this championship a bit just because of all the
Absolutely.
shit. You know, all of the stats and everything, like it's definitely not the 4 best drivers that are in the Final Four at all. You know, obviously Blaney's the defending champ.
Close.
Yeah. But it's also, I think, kind of a testament to Penske because they have this format mastered. This is what they do. They suck most of the year, comparatively speaking, and then they just I can almost guarantee Blaney and them had that race circled that they were going to win that fucking race. They had the car to win that race, and that was how they were going to get into Phoenix. And
to be fair,
I can't.
The Logano stuff is all super lucky, right? Like,
Right,
he should have been out if Bowman hadn't had a DQ, right?
Yep,
and
yep.
Logano's been terrible, relatively speaking, all year, right? Like, he hasn't been great. He's been a little better in the playoffs, but he's still kind of just been mediocre.
Right. And I know people say he has 3 wins,
but again, 2 of those wins were fuel mileage wins.
Right. And the other one was the super speedway. So,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I hate that it happened. I'm not surprised though, because this format it was going to happen sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as
I'm okay with that happening sooner or later, right? Like, I came on here, staunchly defended the format, and I still defend these 4 drivers making it through. Maybe Joey Logano less so, but William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney had great years.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems with our Final Four, really, aside from maybe Logano. But again, that occasionally happens. That's part of your wild card, like when the New York Giants make the Super Bowl as a wild card team. It's fine. That, as long as if there's one of those, I'm okay with that. So my issue with the format isn't that. And I'm totally okay with the format from that perspective. It's how we got what we got at Martinsville, all the shenanigans that happened at Martinsville that I never foresaw taking place. That has me now soured a little bit on this format, just because years ago we had the whole Clint Boyer scratch your arm incident. He spins out on purpose. Who was it in the Brian Vickers, another Boyer teammate and Truex teammate, comes in to pit, and a whole shenanigans of rigging Martin Truex Jr. getting into the chase. Well, that basically killed Michael Waltrip Racing. They lost all their sponsors and they're out of the sport another year or 2 later. NASCAR came down very heavy-handed on the penalties there and allowed Jeff Gordon into the playoffs. NASCAR should be doing the same thing here, because that was rigged to help William Byron. It was rigged to help Christopher Bell. And like you said, NASCAR found the perfect scapegoat. But if Bell had just come off the wall, Bubba still would have stayed behind him. He wouldn't have passed him. So we would be talking about the Richmond shenanigans of a decade ago all over again, and more than a decade ago. And NASCAR's got to be thanking their lucky fucking stars that Bell just stayed on the wall there, because otherwise it would be a complete total black eye on the sport, and it should be right now. And they're lucky it isn't. But I have no problem with Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell not making it. They didn't perform well enough when they needed to. I have no problem with that. It's just how the last playoff spot was decided was something the sport never wants to see. We didn't want to see it more than a decade ago, which is why we had the huge heavy-handed punishments we had. And now we just don't have that. Like, these guys are getting off relatively cheap and easy, right? I mean, they're getting off. Bubba Wallace getting off easy, crew chief getting off easy, car chief, whoever it is, owners getting off easy. They're all getting off easy.
And here's the thing, like it's $100,000 for each team,
but they make so much more by getting a chance of the championship.
Exactly, that spot is so much. And Hendrick didn't even get fined. And whether it was Chevy team orders or what, I don't know. That was honestly one very surprising aspect of it to me. I can believe that Austin Dillon was that loyal to Chevy, because I feel like Richard Childress is one of those guys. He's super loyal to Chevy. But I was super surprised that Chastain was so loyal to Chevy, because I feel like, I don't know, like they race each other so hard otherwise. To have that type of technical alliance is just, It was surprising to me. And you know what? Like you said, like the penalties, I mean, they're kind of severe, but they're really not. And if we've learned anything about these crew chiefs, about these teams, is they will find any tiny thing to get an advantage, any tiny loophole that potentially is a gray area. They will exploit it at some point. Eventually, the opportunity will come and they will exploit it. If you remember when I think it was Childers and Harvick found that the side skirts on the car, if you flared them out a little bit, you'd have more speed. So every pit stop, they flared it out a little bit. And you know, NASCAR eventually, you know, got a hold of that and did that. But I'll tell you what, with the penalties, with how everything played out, you know what I'm doing if I'm Toyota this week? I'm saying the final restart here at Phoenix, nobody else pit, and then you allow Reddick to get ahead of you, and then you just form a wall. Because
blockade, yeah.
What is NASCAR going to do if the teams do that? And I hope it happens, because what are they going to do if the exact same thing happens with a championship contender, championship Final Four guy at Phoenix leading, and they form a blockade behind him and literally go, because minimum speed, they could probably go 3 to 4 seconds slower lap than everybody else. They could allow that leader to just start lapping the field and then get out of the way and let the race play out. Even if they get black flagged, they're going to set the other guys back so far, it's not going to be possible for them to catch it without another caution. So if I'm the teams, if I'm the organizations, I'm forcing their hand, because at this point, I don't think that they have set enough of a precedent that it's not going to happen again, or that it couldn't happen again.
Exactly. Yeah. 100% right. And that's what makes me so annoyed, right? Like, the racing was so good until the very end there, last 20, 25 laps. And it just comes down to something nobody wants to see, this bullshittery with manufacturers and, you know, drivers letting off the gas and drivers forming blockades. And that's not racing. That's not racing. It's just not racing. It's chess. I didn't come to watch chess, right? I came to watch racing.
And to play devil's advocate there, though,
yeah,
that's what super speedway racing is playing chess like that.
It is, but not with 50 to go. It's not.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not.
But there's still aspects of it.
This was just 25 to go, and it was chess with 25 to go all the way to the very end. But super speedway racing, once you get 25 to go, it's every man for himself, for the most part. I mean, occasionally you might have a teammate pushing a teammate to win, but that's different, right? Because that's part of super speedway racing, is bump drafting and all that, the teamwork there, but in a teammate style, not in a I'm going to screw the rest of the field style.
But also, okay, let's say you have Byron and Bell on the front row at Talladega on the final restart, and behind them you have Hamlin and Gibbs. Okay, who's ever behind Byron is not going to push on that final restart.
Sure,
I can guarantee that.
But
and to me, that's the exact same thing.
Maybe, but the Chevy behind them might be.
That's true. That's true, and that's the, you know, it's the perfect scenario of Martinsville, such a small track that the guys behind them couldn't do it. Yeah. I want to hear, and I want to see what Keselowski was saying on the radio during all that, because right behind that blockade was Keselowski and Logano. Keselowski could have won that race. He had that good of a car, and I'm surprised. And even right after the race, he tweeted out, like, basically, this just killed the format.
Yep.
And
yeah, I mean, he knew he couldn't dump the guys in front because that would be risking Blaney winning, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there was Ford shenanigans going on as well, right? And
it's just on a very minor level. But I don't know. Like I said, I want to see teams. I want to see shenanigans this week too, as a fuck you to NASCAR for not closing this loophole.
Yeah, and let's just point out the 4 drivers that got eliminated are first, second, third, and fourth in average points this year. Points per race this year, right? So that's just wild. And I'm okay with that. I'm fine with 5th, 6th, and 7th, right? Getting through. That's like an NFL year where you have the 5th, 6th, 7th place teams getting into the AFC and NFC championship games. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's totally fine. the thing that's not fine is what we saw at Martinsville. That's not fine.
Yeah.
That is not okay.
Yeah.
The thing that we saw at Richmond over a decade ago, that is not fine. That is not okay. And that's why NASCAR put an end to essentially to Michael Waltrip Racing. NASCAR can't afford, and the funny thing is NASCAR knows this, they can't afford to put an end to Hendrick Motorsports and to Joe Gibbs Racing, right?
Yeah.
Or 2311. They know they can't afford to do that right now at this point. So,
and it's not like they can go after Chevy or Toyota either, because I mean,
exactly.
And that's, you know, I don't feel bad for NASCAR, but in that aspect I do, because their hands are pretty tied with that. And I think that's why they made the decisions, and they're saying the things that they are. But
what if we had, like, let's think about this format, right? What if we had our normal regular season, 10 race playoffs still, fine with that. But instead, and I always proposed, you know, cutting it down in different ways, like number of races or whatever. But what if we just do 7 races, have a cut, 3 races, champion?
That wouldn't be bad. Did you hear Harvick's?
Yeah, a final round of 3, get us some Martinsville, a Homestead, and or a, you know, a 1.5er, and some other track, right? Phoenix, right? I don't know, and or get us Phoenix, a mile and a half, and any other track, because those are kind of the ones we all gravitate towards, are Phoenix and Homestead late, and then just give us one other track. But give us 7 races. Cut it off, maybe say, okay, the final 5 drivers will battle it out for 3 races, reset the points, and whoever comes out on top after those 3 races is your champion. I'd be fine with that format, because it would only affect, you know, the 5th place car getting in, and at that point, you know, we'd still have shenanigans, but we get shenanigans just on the playoff cutoff, right? I mean, we're going to have shenanigans anytime there's a cutoff. It doesn't matter if it's for the end of the regular season or for multiple rounds of playoffs. So at some point, we're going to have to deal with shenanigans. It's just the shenanigans we saw for Martinsville are too much for the sport. It makes me not want to be a NASCAR fan right now at this point in time. Like, I don't even care about watching Phoenix. I really don't. I'm so frustrated with NASCAR right now. Not betting wise, I'm fine. All that shenanigans didn't affect any of my bets. None. I'm so frustrated with how that race ended. It is just not, and NASCAR making the wrong call, NASCAR finding the perfect scapegoat. Nothing about that end was good. And you could see it from a mile away. NBC, the commentators, intentionally were not talking about the Chevy's forming blockade. They were talking about how William Byron is doing a great job fending them off. I'm like, you all know William Byron's not fending them off. You know, they're just sitting there in formation behind him. So first of all, we have to fuck you to the commentators for that, because they didn't call it out at all. They were just, oh, William Byron's defending. I can't believe this on older tires. We know what was going on. Just tell it like it is. Come on.
Right. See, I'm the opposite. Like, this race left a pretty sour taste in my mouth. And once again, I think it's an embarrassment to the sport. I think the sport's embarrassing. But I'm still excited for Phoenix because of the betting aspect, just because now I'm holding a 27-1 Blaney ticket for championship that I bet last week. Mm-hmm. So like that is what's driving me, but it's not I'm not actually excited like I should be. It's more of, I want to see if I win my bet. But here's the big question.
I've got my Logano ticket, so I can just hedge out in a bunch of ways and just ignore the race.
Here's a question for you though. Will this, and I haven't seen this mentioned anywhere, I haven't seen any indication of this, but as you said, like, and I think how everybody agrees is that the way that this stops happening or decreases the chances of stupid shit happening like this is a format change of the playoffs. Do we see that for next season? You know, like that's, And I thought, did you hear Harvick's suggestion?
What did he say?
So he said with this format, so he was trying to make this format better. He said regular season points champion automatically gets into the championship race. Second place automatically gets into round of 8. Third place automatically gets into round of 12. like that. So it's making the drivers actually take the regular season points seriously and fight for second through fourth. I like that. I like that idea.
I like that a lot.
Like you were talking about, like the Final Four. I'm not disappointed.
The only thing is, how do we incentivize those drivers for the first 2 or 3 rounds of the playoffs, right? If Denny Hamlin is automatically in the round of 8, what does he do for 6 races?
Right. Help his teammate like that. And then that opens the door of he's going to help his teammates.
Yeah.
We saw shenanigans at Vegas. We saw Ty Gibbs pit when he didn't need to pit so he could help Christopher Bell. Just like we saw Blaney help Logano. Like we've seen shenanigans in every single one of these races. And the Martinsville one was just the icing on the cake.
I like
and the most
the
egregious.
idea. It needs some work, right? It needs some work. What does Denny Hamlin, if he makes a round of 8, what does he do for next 6 races?
Right. Yeah. I do. I think a change is necessary, but I don't think NASCAR is going to make any change for next season. But I think it might be on the table for the season after. That's my gut.
I mean, this was ugly, and it makes me not. Like I said, I don't really care about the championship race. I just don't. Once I got done saying my shit on Twitter about how pissed I was about that, up until right now when we started recording, I haven't given a single thought about NASCAR. That's how frustrated I am with NASCAR right now.
And you know, a lot of people on social media, the non-bots are saying the same thing.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, that is classic NASCAR right there. Your head of communications or whatever his title is at NASCAR, instead of just answering the question, deflects and says that it's a bunch of bots on there. No, it's because you fuckers don't want to listen to people.
Same bots where he got mad at me on Twitter in 2015 or 16 because I said the word shit.
That comment, and then you know because he's trying to backpedal. I didn't
want tires blowing and killing drivers.
Right. Yeah.
That's that. And so I said I didn't want that shit happening or something like that. And he was like, "I can't stand when people cuss on Twitter, whatever." Like,
yeah, let's focus on that part of the
now he's calling us bots. 10 years later.
But I think that's just typical NASCAR thought. They don't like they put no. They say they listen, but they put no emphasis. They put no actual ears to what people are saying because they have thoughts like that social media is just a bunch of bots. It's baffling. It is absolutely baffling to me that this organization just I know we're hypercritical, but damn, they fuck up everything when given the opportunity. And it's unfortunate.
And we compliment NASCAR when they do great stuff. We started the year, they were fucking nailing shit left and right. We talked about it, first 8-10 races. Everything was going great, honestly. NASCAR was making the right calls. A lot of good stuff was happening. And the second half of the year, everything has just gone to shit as far as officiating. Elton Sawyer having to come out. Like, in the second half of the season, Elton Sawyer's come out, it feels like every other race. Whereas in the first half of the season, we didn't have to hear from him at all.
And that's another unfortunate thing with this scenario and how this is going to play out, because it's overshadowing a bunch of great moments in this season. This season has been one that I'm definitely going to remember it for a while because of the great finishes, because of the great racing. But I'm always going to remember this black eye on it. And like you said, I want to restate the fact. I completely agree with this. The 4 drivers that are in here, about the only one that I would be disappointed if he won the title would be Logano.
I feel like just for my bankroll, but
yeah, exactly. But like, you know, like I'm gonna call out people that shit on the format and say it's not a legitimate champion if they say anybody else. If anybody else wins a championship and they say it, because Byron is a legitimate championship contender. He has been all year. Tyler Reddick, regular season champion. Ryan Blaney's the defending champion, 3-time winner this year. That was one of the most clutch performances we've seen in a while.
His wins have also just been all like legit, right? Like he kicked ass. He led the most laps in the other 2 wins, and he had the best car at Martinsville, even though he didn't lead the most laps, just because it's such a track position track, and he never had track position until the very end. But Ryan Blaney, destroyed in all 3 of his wins. He had probably the best car in all 3 of his wins.
Mm-hmm. And he's gonna have a great car at Phoenix. Like to me, I think Blaney's the favorite heading into this race.
I agree.
Most sports books agree.
100%.
So,
and I'm right there with. I know a bunch of people have already bet Ryan Blaney to win the championship.
Mm-hmm.
I have too. I just haven't recorded. I bet it right when odds came out on Sunday while I was still fuming, and haven't given a thought about NASCAR since. But so Ryan Blaney's my Joey Logano hedge. I don't know if I'll bet Byron or Reddick and just hedge out and lock in a profit or not. I'm not the hedging type, but I just don't care at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't care. I don't care about the finale. I just don't. Martinsville left such a sour taste in my mouth. And again, it has nothing to do with betting because it didn't affect a single bet of mine. I'm a racing fan, and that just rubs me so much the wrong way that I haven't given a thought to NASCAR since all my bitching on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Another controversial. There was a lot of shit that happened in this race. Carson Hocevar turned into Carson Wrecking Ball again.
God, unbelievable. I'm glad he got wrecked, and it wasn't his fault that he got dumped, but I'm glad he did because twice more he dumped people.
Yeah. Here's my thing though, because the broadcast went on a little tirade against him. Fans and announcers everywhere were celebrating when Ross Chastain was doing that same shit.
Ross definitely got lectures from the commentators in the past. That is for sure. And from
nothing like
Twitter,
what Hocevar got.
And on Twitter, there are so many people. Oh, there's Ross again. We're doing Ross things, right? I mean, I remember coming on here and almost kind of being the Ross defender in some ways, saying, I don't think he meant to do it, but he still did it, right? Like, it was still his fault. I was just more like, he didn't mean to do it. Hocevar, though, a lot of the stuff he has done, he has intentionally done, right? Now, I don't think the Martinsville things were intentional. I think it's just him driving too hard all the time. So I agree. In this case, I will defend him in that I don't think he meant to do either of those things. That was more of a Ross Chastain thing from a couple years ago. So I won't defend him there. I still think there has been a ton of stuff he is meant to do. But Ross, anything Ross has ever done, he's never intentionally done. Like, he didn't intentionally wreck Denny at Gateway. He drove like he does, hard and aggressive, and he took his knocks that way by learning you can't always do that. Hocevar has done a lot of this shit intentionally. We've seen many times where he's right rear hooked or drove somebody down the track or just flat out intentionally spun him. I think it was Harrison Burton earlier this year. This one, both of these, I should say, at Martinsville, were accidents. And that's why my only Twitter comment was LOL Hocevar, right? Like, I wasn't like railing him for being a horrible person for intentionally wrecking. It was more just like, kind of like LOL Ross, right? Like those comments from a couple years ago. So I both agree with you and disagree with you. There's been a lot of stuff that Hocevar does deserve to be taken to task for. I just wish it was, when the commentary took him to task, it was for the Harrison Burton incident. Or
exactly.
Right rear somebody. But at the same time, they did also take Ross to task on occasion. You got to stop doing that. You got to stop putting yourself in these situations where you're spinning drivers out from behind and things like that.
I will note though that when Ross was doing his stuff, there's like right now with Hocevar, there's not many people defending him. Whereas, Ross had a lot of people defending him. We're like, oh, he's just aggressive driving. He's the next Earnhardt.
Well, and that's why I'm defending Hocevar here, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
He was aggressive driving. He wasn't intentionally, but he was aggressive driving. That's what caused these incidences. And
I think the biggest difference and why we're seeing the different responses is because when Ross was doing it, it was for the lead. When Hocevar is doing it, it's for 15th. And that plays.
Well, and when Ross was doing it, it was because the other, like you said, it was for the lead. It was or for a top 5 spot or against Denny Hamlin, even if it was mid-pack, it was with guys that were going forward.
Right.
But also, he didn't have a history of right rear hooking people. He didn't have a history of intentionally wrecking people. He didn't have a history of ruining a truck championship race by getting pissed off that he lost all his track position. Ross didn't do any of that stuff prior to his incidents. He had an incident with Harvick in the truck series, I think it was, but that's just normal, like two guys driving each other because they get angry with each other type stuff. No, like right rear hooks or whatever. But Hocevar just has almost like a CVS receipt list of just dumb shit he has done on purpose. Yeah. And that's why he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt at this point. Whereas Ross got the benefit of the doubt because he didn't have that CVS receipt.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see if Hocevar ever gets, or when he gets payback, because I think it's going to happen, but like it's not
at Martinsville, but it wasn't like intentional payback again. It was the same thing. Bowman just kind of did what Hocevar did to the other two guys.
Yep. Another thing that happened in this race was Kyle Busch lost a tire on a restart, and NASCAR decided to go green anyway, despite the tire rolling down the front stretch.
What the fuck was that?
And then called the caution, and then people lost positions based on this restart.
NASCAR's hands were tied there. Like, they have no recourse there because it's written in the rule book, but they never should have thrown the green.
No.
It's commentary was sitting there for 10 seconds saying they can't throw the green. They can't throw the green. They throw the green.
It's how does something like that happen? I don't get it. It's like when they started the race at New Hampshire a few years back when it was raining. Like, it's the exact same thing to me. How are these decisions being made? I don't get it. I truly don't.
I will say, I honestly, I agree with people that I wish they could have just kept the same order and reacted or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But by the rule book, they couldn't. Like, their hands were tied there. Once it went green, they have a set thing of procedures. So their hands were tied there. Maybe it's something they can edit for next year, that kind of thing. If there's maybe there's a quickie caution rule, not in the quickie caution way that we skip pit stops or whatever, but or let everybody pit. I forget whatever the old quickie caution rule was. But like, if there's a caution within the first few seconds that is thrown after a green, and it's for an error, like an officiating error or something, they can go back to the previous order before the restart. But they don't have that rule right now, so their hands were tied. They had to do that. So I'm fine with that part. I'm not fine with the actually throwing the green part.
Right.
It's bullshit. Like, you cannot. Everybody, like, TV showed it. The commentators were saying it. Like, you got to be kidding me. How do you miss that?
Like I said, I don't know how. And hopefully they also like recognize and when they review everything, they're like, oh shit, we fucked that up too, and they do make the rule change, or else, I'm sure it'll happen again. If it happens once, it'll happen again.
Man, and there was a lot of controversy this weekend, just in general.
Yeah, even without the end, there was.
Well, I'm saying Xfinity, we had a slap fight with Chandler Smith slapping somebody. In the truck series, shout outs to Taylor Gray for keeping his cool. He went over, confronted race winner Christian Eckes, cursed in his face, as he rightly deserved to, for getting completely punted out of the way as the win. And I've criticized Ty Gibbs just punting guys out of the way for a win. I'm going to criticize Christian Eckes for punting Taylor Gray out of the win without giving him a chance, right? It's one thing if you kind of, as Taylor Gray said, you were blocking me for 5 laps, which I'm fine with. So I was giving you a little bumper and trying to get underneath. You do it cleanly with the bumper. This wasn't cleanly with the bumper. This was just essentially dump him. You didn't spin him out, but you essentially dumped him. And while it's technically fine by this new racing, this new era of racing, it's technically fine because you didn't spin him out. It's also technically fine that Taylor Gray gets to go up to Christian Eckes and curse his face out. Didn't punch him. Even said he would race it clean at Phoenix because you have to with the way things are in NASCAR. Although maybe you don't. I don't know after seeing the Cup race. But Taylor Gray better be giving Christian Eckes all sorts of fucking hell either at Phoenix this weekend or next year in the Xfinity series, because they're both racing Xfinity full-time next year. Because Christian Eckes literally cost Taylor Gray a shot at the championship because Taylor Gray was in a win-and-go-in spot, right? And Eckes didn't need the win. Eckes was fine on points. He could have just let Taylor Gray win. Eckes still would have made it to Phoenix, and now he doesn't have a pissed-off Taylor Gray at Phoenix to deal with Instead, he just needs to beat Taylor Gray, who hasn't been as good all year. Like, Christian Eckes actually did the wrong thing by winning that race. It would have been easier for him to win the championship if Taylor Gray was in it instead of whoever else was in it because of that, because Taylor Gray has not been as good as those other drivers all season. I mean, maybe I'm wrong just because of the specific track, but, it being Phoenix and where Taylor Gray is good. But, like, as an aggregate on the year, Taylor Gray was not as good as, I don't even remember who it was in, the Truck Series getting the last spot. But I remember thinking it at the time. Like, why did he do that? It would be so much better for him to have Taylor Gray. So, yeah, it's Heim, Majeski, Enfinger, and Eckes. And Enfinger was already locked in. So he just allowed either Corey Heim or Ty Majeski, right, to get in. And Corey Heim and Ty Majeski all year have been better than Taylor Gray. I don't remember which one it was. I don't really care. But both of them are your fiercest competition. And now you just made it harder for yourself to win the championship by letting in a better driver truck combo into the championship race and pissing off the guy you eliminated. Dumb.
Yeah, just dumb. Just stupid. It
was a weekend of controversy at Martinsville.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't short of it. I wasn't paying attention to truck at Xfinity, so I'm not too knowledgeable on those, but kind of saw some of the aftermath on Twitter and stuff. And yeah, it's I don't even know. Like, it's wild. But yeah, our championship 4 is set. Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, William Byron. We're heading into Phoenix. Oh, I know you're not interested in it, Nick, but we got to talk about it.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
So here's the thing. Call me crazy, but Christopher Bell's sitting out there at 6-1 to win this race. I have 2 bets that I absolutely love this week that I'm already on. I have 2 long shot bets already did. This is my finale. I'm not going to be able to bet NASCAR for 3 months. So I love betting the final week. I don't care if I lose. I don't care what it does. But Christopher Bell 6-1, that surprised the shit out of me because that car was so good here in the spring. And if Christopher Bell would be in the championship 4, he would be the favorite. He'd probably be at plus 300. Now you got a pissed off Christopher Bell, who potentially, once again, has by far the best car in the field. I love Christopher Bell 6-1. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but I already bet it. I'm in.
I love it. He's going to go out and crush. He had easily the best car first Phoenix race. I remember watching the preseason test, and he just smoked the field, and then he backed it up in the race at Phoenix. I love it. I'm in. I'm in.
And like, I understand the narrative of he's not racing for the championship. Here's the thing. You look at all the short flat tracks this year. New Hampshire, Christopher Bell had the best car, dominated the race. Nashville, Christopher Bell dominated that race. I can't even think. Obviously, Phoenix dominated that race. Christopher Bell and the 20 team have had the best car on this track type all year, and they won Phoenix earlier this year by 5.5 seconds. I don't care and that was after starting, I think he started like 19th. If he would have started in the front like that, this race wouldn't even be close. So to me, yeah, I hate betting outrights. This is my favorite outright bet of the year. I bet it as soon as FanDuel dropped their odds. I immediately hit 6-1.
Yep.
You know what else I love? I have 2 more bets I love. BetMGM dropped Michael McDowell top 10 at 14-1.
He was 21 last year, right? And he finished 10th. Yeah. Remember, this was the race where we were betting all the top 10s last year. He didn't finish 10th. He finished 9th.
Yep.
We were betting all the top 10s because books priced the 4 championship favorites so short. And then they tied their top 10 odds to the championship favorites. So everybody that wasn't a championship 4, basically the whole field was top 10 value after that. I think there was like 6 or 7 top 10 bets we made. and 20-1 Michael McDowell came through and made everybody a bunch of money in the championship race. So yeah, I'm totally on board with that Michael McDowell one again.
Yeah. And this is funny because the two guys that have made me the most money this year, this is funny to me. Okay, so like my betting card so far, I got Christopher Bell outright. I got Michael McDowell 14-1 top 10, and another one I love, Chris Buescher top 10 plus 220. The two drivers that have made me the most money this year are Michael McDowell and Chris Buescher, and the one that has cost me the most money in my betting lifetime is Christopher Bell. Yep. Like, this is the perfect end of the season for me. Oh, yeah, and David Starr. But this is the perfect end of the season for me because I'm just betting on either my fucking kryptonite or the guys that have just padded my pockets all year. So I'm like, from a betting perspective, I love this race. But yeah, no, Chris Buescher, awesome on short flat tracks, awesome here at Phoenix here recently. So I love Buescher top 10 plus 220.
Yep. I'm on board. I'm on board with that. I haven't done shit for analysis this week. I'll just tell you that straight up, obviously. Yeah. But I know when I get around to it for running hot tomorrow, I'll probably be looking at those top 10 bets. Not just Buescher or McDowell, but just in general, see where things fall, right? Like Todd Gillen, maybe something like that. I see an 11-1 right now. I don't have all the books open or anything like that. But
I think that's longest.
Yeah. But like, you get the idea. Like, I'm looking at some of these spots because the championship 4 drivers plus Christopher Bell are soaking up a lot of the win probability. Books, not as much as last year, are tying their odds to win probability, but probably still a little bit in some cases. Maybe some books. Again, I haven't shopped around, but yeah, I think that's where I'll end up on tomorrow is a few top 10 bets for running hot. But Blaney championship, Bell to win the race. I mean, those are all the same bets everybody else is on. I honestly don't have a whole lot of new to add because those are all the ones that make sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Where does Blaney have to be for you to bet him championship wise?
I have no idea, but he's definitely the favorite of the 4. And if everybody was equal, it'd be 3-1. So
I think,
yeah, I'll know when I run my model.
I think like right now, he's about plus 250 everywhere in that range.
Yeah, plus 250 is ridiculously far too long.
You think it's too long?
It should be like plus 200, right?
That's where I'm looking up now. That's where Hard Rock has him is plus 200.
Yeah, plus 250 is just way too long. He needs to be much shorter than that, right? He's probably like, I remember I did my like back of the napkin math last week, and I was like, if Bell's 80% to win and 33% to win the championship at Phoenix, well, now Bell's not in, and Blaney's the Bell essentially. He's the 33% guy to win, so he should be probably plus 200 instead of plus 250 for the championship. And again, no math here, no model, just my gut feeling. But I know my gut feeling is shared by other people I've seen on Twitter and so forth. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you I would bet Blaney plus 250 any day without needing a model here for Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. That's where FanDuel has him at plus 250.
Yeah, he's a bet.
Where that's at.
He's a bet.
And that's also where Bell's sitting at 6-1. A lot of like Caesars has Bell at 4-1. But FanDuel once again coming
Blaney
through
opened plus 250 here at Vegas at Boyd, which is FanDuel proxy on Sunday. So grabbed him and haven't thought about it since. But if he's still at plus 250, absolutely continue to fire away. It's like it's also kind of my Logano hedge, right? Because I have that Logano ticket from earlier in the year.
What do you have Logano at? I forget.
I don't even remember, 16 or 18, something like that.
Okay.
We talked about it mid-season on this podcast. I just don't remember. I didn't look. Don't care. Too pissed off. I think it's 16 or 18.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just sitting with a small Blaney 27 ticket. Threw that in.
I had Ross at 40, I think it was. And then I have Toyota to win from preseason. So that's my Reddick hedge, right?
There we
I've
go.
got a Reddick hedge. I've got a Blaney hedge on Logano. And maybe I just hope Byron doesn't win the championship, but we'll see. I mean, I could always throw something on Byron and lock up a profit, but I don't think it would necessarily be a plus EV play. And you know me, I like only really hedging if it's plus EV. That's why I didn't hedge Chase Briscoe at Darlington. He was 100 to 1, but I only had him 0.8% to win. And of course, post-practice and qualifying, I had him like 2.5%, 3%, but then he was only down to 20 to 1. So again, couldn't really bet him. So I'm just not a hedger unless I think it's a plus EV hedge, which is why Blaney plus 250 was fine.
I'm interested to see how this race compares to the spring race at Phoenix. If you remember back to the first race, Toyotas were class of the field. Hamlin led 68 laps from the pole. Reddick led 68 laps as well. Ty Gibbs led 57 laps. He opened at 45 to 1. I threw a little bit of coin on that as well. Just based on, how he ran here last time. Truex led 55 laps, and then Bell led 50 laps and won. He started 13th. I misspoke before I said he started 19th. He started 13th. But yeah, Toyota definitely had it figured out here first time around, and it's been what? That was March, so it's been 7 months since they've been there. It's going to be interesting to see, if the Fords bring the speed. Who's your who? If you had to rank the final 4 championship guys in order, where would you put them?
Blaney, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty close between Reddick and Byron. Probably a slight nod to Reddick, but it's very close.
Mm-hmm.
And then Logano.
I'm with you there. I think I'm leaning Byron second, but like you said, it's a toss up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
if there was a second Toyota or a second Chevy, you could see a little bit of divided attention, but they're the only Toyota and the only Chevy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting race. Blaney just absolutely amazing here at Phoenix. Top 5 finishes in each of the last 6 races here.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolute stud. Like we said last year, he won the race, or he won the championship here last year, finishing 5th. Byron was in the Final 4 last year too, wasn't he? Or am I wrong? I honestly forget.
He was. Because there was all that talk of Byron dating Blaney's sister or whatever.
Yeah.
They aren't now, but they were at the time. Yeah. Yeah, Ross won the race. It was Blaney, Larson, Byron finishing 2, 3, 4. And Bell had the early issues.
Yep. Now I remember it. Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that Ross Chastain, I'm just looking at DraftKings. That's all I have open right now. Ross Chastain minus 170 for a top 10. Buescher plus 150.
Like I said, you can get Buescher at plus 220. And yeah, Ross is about minus 125 everywhere. I don't know why people are hating Buescher this week. Buescher 220 is at
Bet 365. Yeah,
Bet 365 Fanatics. I think Hard Rock has him at plus 220.
Yeah, I see. I just opened Bet 365.
Yeah, there. He's now at plus 225 on Hard Rock. To me, Buescher could have won. Well, he's had one of the best cars these last 2 races at Phoenix.
What about Briscoe plus 220?
I know, there's so many good ones out there. I don't want to bet them all. But yeah, Briscoe's been great here.
Briscoe's won here.
Yeah, man. Even
I'll tell you what. My season of terrible luck has continued. Brian Preece was a top 10 car all day. Doesn't finish top 10. who else was it? It was a top 10 car all day. Doesn't finish top 10. It's like, dude, I've had unbelievable, horrible.
Priest was a top
luck
5
this
car
year. Yeah,
for most
exactly.
of the day.
Bowman was a top 10 car all day. Doesn't finish top 10 because he had that incident. Like, just, yeah. Unbelievable.
It's wild. It's kind of like my my jinx of my pick to win. Remember who I had last week?
No.
Christopher Bell.
Oh God. I had Elliott, didn't I? He finished second. So
Yep.
But no, because last week we were talking about Bubba. You said Bubba top 10 was your favorite bet, and I was like, I think I like Bowman top 10 more. It was even longer.
Yep.
Bowman came in with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th best average running position. It probably would have been 7th best had he not gotten into that late incident and bad strategy. Priest was the 6th best average running position and probably had a top 4, 5, 6 car. One of those days, man. If those two finish top 10 like they ran all day, I'm doing great, right? I bet Blaney top 5. I bet Blaney over Elliott. But so I won those and clawed a little back. But man, I would have been another 4 plus the units I bet. That would have been 6 extra units there, at least. Right, because I had Bowman 2-1 and Priest plus 270. So that would have been 6.7 extra units had those guys finished where they ran. It's just the year I've had, right?
It is, and I understand why you're ready for the off season, ready to.
Yeah, and I'm not checked again. I'm not checked out because of betting, right? Like I'm just checked out because Martinsville, right? But the ending of Martinsville, like I said, didn't affect a single bet of mine. I don't. You could see me on Twitter at the moment. I'm like, oh great, Chevys are forming a blockade. Watch, Bubba's gonna let off the gas, and sure enough, Bubba let off the gas. There was no tire issue. We all know that.
And
the thing NASCAR should have done was stop him right there on fucking pit road and pull his tires off and inspect them.
Yep.
In front of the cameras. That's what they should have done.
And kudos to them for tearing that car down.
Yeah.
Like a tire issue is questionable, but if you have that much of a mechanical issue that you're running that slow, they were going to find if there was an issue on there, and clearly they didn't.
Yeah.
I was hoping that there was, because that would just add a layer to, okay, Toyotas weren't actually doing anything, but Chevys were. And then, yeah. You think, okay, obviously we like Christopher Bell this week to win the race. Do you think we see the second year in a row where a non-championship driver wins?
In all likelihood, no, but I mean, it's Christopher Bell, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason he's not an even money favorite.
Right.
So he's not favored to win in that regard, but I mean, there's still a chance for sure. Just the odds are that we get a championship 4 driver winning. Although with Logano in there, it's a little less likely than in other years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if Bell has issues, I think we see a championship 4 driver win it. If he doesn't, I think Bell wins this race. I think he runs away with it. Obviously, now that my Bell championship tickets are dead, I'm gonna try one last time for this fucker to make me some money, and go on the outright. But yeah, I think it's gonna kind of be like last year where, someone else like Bell wins, and then you got 3 or 4 of the championship guys right behind him.
Yeah, definitely possible.
You got anything else to talk about for Phoenix?
I mean, any other long shot top 10 bets, or I shouldn't say long shot, but just guys that could sneak into the top 10, really, because the focus here this weekend is championship drivers, but we talked about potentially I shouldn't say surprise, but non-championship driver winner. What about other drivers finishing in the top 10? Because I like that Buescher bet for sure. I like Briscoe, I think top 10. McDowell at 14, absolutely. Gilly at 14, that kind of thing. Like, is he in there? Is Eric Jones at 14. I don't know. It's just I haven't gone through and analyzed it, but there's definitely some Carson Hocevar at 8, right? Gregson at 8.
Hocevar definitely caught my eyes, and yeah, Gregson as well. Obviously he's in that.
Josh Berry at 4.
Yep.
Right? Like, just I need to go through it, run my model, and see. But yeah.
Truex at plus 135 intrigues me. This is obviously his last race, but he's been so good here at Phoenix.
Yep. Yeah, I like that.
But like you were saying, like I like Ross Chastain this week for a top 10. Am I going to bet him at minus 110? No. I'd much rather hit the value of like a Busher. Maybe like a Keselowski, definitely a Briscoe. Even a Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs sitting there at plus 190. He had such a good car here at first race. Because I remember that, because that was the race where Hamlin was on the pole. Everybody was on Hamlin for DFS, and you said, Gibbs can take this early lead. And he did, and then he finished third.
Yeah. I don't know. Not too much else, but yeah, those top 10s are all kind of catching my eye.
Yeah, I'm looking around here to see if there's any other longer ones. A couple, or one other thing this week that I'm surprised. There's a full field of cars. We got 40 cars entered in this race.
Yeah, exactly. We got Derek Kraus, JJ Yaley, Chad Fincham, and Jimmy Johnson added to the field.
And also Jeb Burton.
Oh, right. Yeah. Kraus is in the call it Jeb Burton. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a little bit surprised. I would assume that the payouts or the purse for this race is higher than normal, and that's why they're making the trip over to Phoenix. But that's something that kind of caught my eye today.
Just last chance to race this year.
Yeah.
Got all off season to deal with it.
We have a split practice and qualifying this weekend. Different from what's typical. So we got practice on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, qualifying on Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern, and then the race on Sunday at 3. So I don't think that's going to make a big difference this week, obviously, but excuse me. Just something noteworthy. Yeah, Briscoe's plus 225 for a top 10 at ESPN.
Good grief. Yeah,
It'll also be.
I think I'll be taking that.
You got to think Stuart Haas is gonna come out one last time swinging.
So that's the thing, though. We always talk about these narrative street type stuff, and then it's like narrative this, narrative that. And there was one recently, and I was like, the narrative didn't even hit at all. This driver sucked, right? I don't remember what it was, but we always talk narrative street, but for me, that's never a reason to bet on somebody. And I know a lot of people do use it as a reason to bet on somebody, but I just have never been that way. Because I see too many times that narrative street ends up flopping or failing. But people remember when it works because it's a narrative.
Yeah. No, I'm surprised I haven't seen people like if anything, I could see Stuart Haas kind of throwing in the towel early, but like we saw at Martinsville, I mean, they were strong as hell at Martinsville.
Yeah. And that's the other thing about narratives is like, well, it's their last race, or I could just see him throwing in the towel. Which narrative are you going with, right? Not you specifically, but just in general. Like, and that was one I saw earlier. It was like, well, this could extra whatever, or it could do that. I'm like, yeah, see which one. Which one is it? And I think that was a very similar one that we had with NFL recently. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, is that the narrative or is it that? And they're like, oh, great point. So I try not to get hung up on narrative street stuff because to me, it's different than saying like, okay, we're going to give Christopher Bell extra focus because he's our championship driver. That's different. That's not a narrative. That's like a fact of what the team is trying to do. Right. But I mean, narrative street, the team always wants to win. Stewart Haas Racing wants to win every single race. I don't know why they suddenly want to win this race more.
Right.
And like you said, they could be checked out. To me, it doesn't matter. Just It is what it is. The only real narrative we have this weekend is we've got 4 drivers that are in the championship. A lot of focus will be on them. And then maybe the Christopher Bell narrative of he's pissed off, but he's good here anyway. So that's like, to me, that has nothing to do with the narrative. He's just good here. He just kicked everybody's ass here in the first race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I pulled up Briscoe while you were talking. In the next gen era, finishes 1st, 4th, 7th, 24th, and 9th.
Plus 225 for top 10 finish.
Plus 225 for top 10.
All right, I'm locking it in right now. I'll lock it in right after we finish this up.
I'm trying to see. Oh, he just wasn't good last year when he finished at 24th. But yeah, 80% hit rate on top 10s in this car.
Yep.
Oh. All right. 36 for 36. I can't get into the spreadsheet. Oh, there we go. I got it
with you. Yeah, I shared it
Yep.
with you. We have like a automatic unshare thing, and I just forgot to hit the renew or whatever.
Oh, gotcha.
It's been a busy week.
So 75-point advantage for me heading into this final race. Impossible for you to catch me, but you made it interesting there in these playoffs. I'll say that. Obviously, I had Byron last week at Martinsville. You had Josh Berry, 46 and 21 points. This week, I have Christopher Bell. You have Ryan Blaney. Solid picks both there. Both these guys can win this race. Yeah, we'll have to set up next year for people to play with us.
We definitely will. Yeah, for sure.
And it was fun.
It was fun. I don't regret the decisions I made at the end, but if I just hadn't gone a little, like I took Allmendinger at, what was it? What race was that? Bristol, instead of taking him, excuse me, where I planned to at the Roval, right? Like that little flip right there cost me some points.
Yeah, that cost you 30 points right there.
Yeah, the Gregson-Larson decision didn't matter, but like I'd technically still be alive if I hadn't gotten cute there, but I was already so far back that I felt like I had to, I shouldn't say get cute, but take a chance, right? Because I knew you were going to be on the 16 at the Roval. And if, let's say, Dinger had a bad race at the Roval and he only got 16 points, and he got 30 at Bristol, then that's a 50-point swing right there, and I'm right in this. So I kind of had to take that risk. It just didn't pan out. But, I mean, a 50-point swing, and we're talking, and Christopher Bell's not in the championship and Blaney is, we're talking, I could be right there.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it just goes to show how important each week is, and definitely having luck on your side in a lot of these races. With some of these mid-tier guys, you can make the best pre-race guess. You know what we should do next year?
Which we do.
So we should do like this, and then we should do a post-practice qualifying one as well, where we don't make the pick until right before the race.
Yeah, I like that.
Because that would, then you got the weeks where, like a mid-tier, low-tier driver is looking really good, and it would change the strategy a little bit. Yeah. It's just like how I want to do with DraftKings, like make a lineup before practice and qualifying and set it, and then, obviously make one after, but have like a league where people make the lineup before.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, we'll have to look into doing that. But yeah, very fun game. Shout out to who was it, Steve Luvender that created this?
It was a few of the guys at NASCAR.com.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin,
solid game.
Dustin Albino or whatever it is, and Steve Luvender and somebody else. I forget who it was.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, fun game.
Yeah. And now our picks to win. AKA, who the fuck am I jinxing? Because
oh my,
who should it be?
And you're up first. Oh boy.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, I don't like I actually believe that I'm a jinx, and the guys that I want to pick, I have financial interests in not jinxing.
This was definitely the year of the dock block. We just didn't keep track of it in terms of my betting, right?
Right. Yeah. Anything you bet on, definitely bad luck there. And through these through all the races so far, you have an average finish of a pick to win at 10.43. I'm sitting at 13.37. You have 4 winners this year. The last 4 races, you've also finished 4th or better every single time with your pick. I have
here's
one
the thing.
win.
If we total up our pick to win points, I'm probably about as much ahead of you as you are ahead of me in 36 or 36.
Accurate. That's actually probably accurate. Probably even more because you have the 4 winners.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have like a 3 place better average finish times.
I'm going to get bored
races.
and do that.
Yeah.
But that would also change the way I pick.
Oh, of course.
If we included that. All right. I'm up first for Phoenix finale. Oh. Give me oh shit. Silence. Give me Tyler Reddick.
Oh, I was hoping you'd take Byron so I don't have to bet him. Right? Because he's my only hedge left.
He was my that's who it was on the tip of my tongue, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna go. I want Blaney to win this championship, so give me Reddick. I'm jinxing Reddick.
Well, as well as my picks have gone this year, I guess I shouldn't pick Byron, even though picking him would be I either make money or I win my pick to win. No, I'm gonna take Blaney, obviously.
Yeah, that's solid. Can't go wrong there. Cannot go wrong there. And hopefully this little streak of yours continues and Blaney gets his second championship.
Yeah, well, I have money on him, so it's not going to end up well.
If you bet him again after this, he's definitely not winning it.
I'm going to count the number of units I should have had from the outright wins that got taken away from me this year. I can think of at least 3 off the top of my head, but it is what it is. If I could just bet until like 10 to go, I'd be in great shape this year.
Mm-hmm. I will say one thing I've really enjoyed this year is live betting. I love watching those odds.
I'll be live betting probably a lot more next year. I just halfway through the year, it was like I'm just trying to not stop the bleeding, but just like all I want to do is just not make it worse. you know?
Yeah.
But I'll be back in the live streets soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely not my best year betting. I mean, it was terrible. Honestly, it was flat out terrible, horrible. But there was a lot of bad luck, but there was definitely some bad weeks. But learn from those, right? I've definitely second half of the year, even though the results haven't been as good, the bets have been much better. I think like first third of the season, I was like first 2 or 3 weeks, I was great. But that first third of the season after that was just, and then I kind of stopped the bleeding, and it just kind of was a slow bleed off since. But a lot of that was bad luck. I think aside from maybe 1 week, I've been pretty happy with my second half of the season bets. Just absolutely no luck, and it's okay. It happens. That's variance for you. But would have been a losing year anyway, even without that. It just would have not looked so terrible. But that's okay. I've got a lot of plans for how to attack NASCAR next year. In terms of making sure I'm betting the right things and the right times and the right sizes and all that stuff. But that's all stuff for another day to get into next year.
Yeah, I think this offseason is going to be a good reset.
I'm super, super pumped because I will have time to retool my model. I think my model is very good, but I have for years wanted to like retool it, and I'm going to have a full flags database to add to it now for several years, which will really help it. So I'm pretty excited about that. So you haven't heard the last of me in terms of being a profitable NASCAR bettor, and maybe I'll get in the DFS streets again soon.
That's exciting.
We'll see. I don't know. It's always been a nice, like when I was doing DFS, it was always great because my bets, we always talk about this, like your bets can kind of be a hedge to your DFS and you could be profitable on one or not the other, even though they're both plus EV, right? Because a guy might start dead last and he's a good DFS play, but then you're underweight on him in tournaments and you don't think he's actually that good. So you don't bet him, or the other way around, a guy you might not like as a DFS play, or maybe he's a tournament only play and you kind of bet him. But you like use them in cash games, those kinds of things. There's always those natural hedging spots, which are both plus EV. And then I get like super locked in and I'm ready to go. So we'll see. Maybe I need I shouldn't say need DFS, right? Because the last 2 years I didn't really play DFS and I fucking blew the doors off betting. But I gave back about not a year and a half because, there's a couple bets in there that weren't tracked that didn't make it. But gave back about a year and a third worth of profit there, which, out of 3 years, giving away 1.7 years, or say 1.3 years is kind of annoying, but I mean, it's still profitable in NASCAR since I joined Action Network, and clearly before Action Network, for all those that followed me for a long time. So it is what it is. But there'll be some changes coming next year for the good. It's the model to the way I give out content. I think there'll be some good changes.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I'm sure we'll do a wrap-up episode next week after the finale, and I am looking forward to a little break from NASCAR. This final run it's getting tiring, And
I'm already ready for IndyCar, right? Like I just want IndyCar back. IndyCar back. I miss it. There's none of this bullshit shenanigans stuff.
Yeah,
you're not seeing IndyCar drivers 2 or 3 wide just blocking for the field, and another IndyCar driver just letting off the gas to have his teammate pass him.
Yeah,
I love IndyCar. Best racing in the
world. All right. Hopefully we get
I swear to God, I will be ready for NASCAR 2 weeks after it's done. Once I've let Martinsville just kind of blow over, I'm still not over Martinsville. Once I let that blow over, I'll be ready for NASCAR again.
I'll be ready about. I usually start getting hyped up after the New Year. Yeah. Then I'm like, all right, it's time to get back into things. Yeah, but I enjoyed the little break.
It's weird because it's like NASCAR ends, and I've got NFL, and NFL ends. I have March Madness, and March Madness ends, and I have NASCAR. I mean, March Madness NASCAR's already going on to March Madness, so I don't really have an off season. But with not having NASCAR, that'll open up a lot of my NASCAR time to work on NASCAR in terms of the model improvements and stuff. So I'm very excited about that because I've done minor tweaks to my model each of the last few years, but I'm talking like pretty big overhaul. With having a flags database and just some extra ways of doing some distributions. And now we have more years of next gen era data that I think maybe some different modeling techniques will apply better to the next gen era. So I think it'll be fun. I'm excited. Nice. And I'll still use this version of the model as well as kind of a secondary check, but I think my new version of the model is going to be what I go with going forward.
Nice.
And my goal is to be able to make flags data available to everyone. We'll see if I can do that or not. It's just going to depend on how and if we can get it up at actionnetwork.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always enjoy looking at that stuff, so hopefully you're able to.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck, everybody, this weekend at Phoenix. Hopefully we get a drama-free race and a legitimate championship decided. And go Christopher Bell. Go. Yeah. Just destroy the field, please. Be awesome.
Okay.
All right. See you guys.